getting on business. It doesn't matter how things were yesterday.
Like, it was never this free space to say whatever you want, whatever your thoughts. It was always
that clapping just dies. It just stops.
It really does.
As someone who has relied on YouTube to create, honestly, my entire life indirectly, YouTube does not pay me enough to do all the things I want to do. However, indirectly, it brings me the people and the students and things that allow me to, lead a life on my own independently. I think YouTube is a great platform for poets to consider doing the same for themselves, achieving creative and financial independence. And I think that's with things that we see happening just around the U.S., I think there's even greater urgency for trying to create that level of independence. And so today I want to talk a little bit about YouTube, some things that you may want to be considering in creating your own channel, in creating your own online presence, and in finding ways to deliver your art to the people who honestly need it. Yeah. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to Arts and Offers. This is the video podcast where we talk about that link between art, poetry, and business. My name is Jeff.
I'm Matthias.
How are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I got some coffee today. I ate a pastry. I'm not gonna hold you. I don't know if that was like the most balanced breakfast, but I'm going with it, man. How are you?
I'm doing okay. And there was a story actually I saw this morning in the news. Or actually, no, it wasn't in news. It was actually it was a venue that we've been to before. I don't know if you saw it. There was a message from Bossy Girls. So for those who don't know, Columbus Bossy Girls it's a bar, and they I don't know, they do all kinds. They have like drag shows. They appeal, I think, a lot to kind of like the burlesque audience, but they also have like poetry shows and things like that. And they put out a post today that was talking about they're struggling. Patronage is down. Income's down for them. And I think it's something that we're seeing a lot, not just them, like there's lots of restaurants and things closing. There's like, for instance, there's like a ramen shop, honestly, just like a few blocks away from them, in the short north in Columbus that is closing down. Lots of, if you walk down, like even in the short north in Columbus is a place that's like lots of like shops and stores and things like that. And nowadays, like especially if you compare it to like I would say like 10 years ago, like the amount of like vacancies among storefronts is a lot higher. It's something that you see in downtown spaces in general. You're looking at a lot of like your high rises, they're converting to apartments because they don't have like the commercial leases anymore. Like we're seeing this huge period of transition, post pandemic where things are really changing. In-person experiences are changing. The open mic community, like Columbus is a city that used to have, as soon as like 7 years ago, there was a poetry show every single night of the week. And specifically like an open mic every single night of the week. And now, is there any? There's the Cauldron, but like the amount of weekly open mics that is in existence in Columbus right now is that.
Yeah, I think, and I also think, I mean, I think it's really good that the Cauldron kind of took over because I mean, there's a lot of weekly open mics. When there was a lot of weekly open mics, I think that like even in that capacity, like writer's block was like a staple. And so, being the fact that like now there is like something that is there on Wednesdays very consistently, is like really good. But it's also like, it just kind of really reminds you that, there used to be, a much like kind of larger and broader infrastructure of like shows and places that, that were able to house them. Even when you think about like even going to, like not even that long ago, like the place that used to have like righting wrongs and stuff like that, I think like they transitioned ownership. Like
really? What, Ruby Tuesdays or whatever?
Yeah. So just a lot of like changes and stuff like that. I think post pandemic, I think that I don't know if we're just strictly speaking about like open mics, or we're thinking about like poetry open mics. I think a lot of the people that run open mics are also like doing things in a different way that I don't. I mean, who's to say what works or doesn't work? But
Right.
there has been. I think the interesting thing is there's also been cycles in that, just in that window. So there's been like people that have started something weekly that weren't able to sustain it,
Yeah.
afterwards and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff has happened too.
So it's, long story short, it's in some ways not been this hard to fill seats.
Yeah.
It's not been this hard to bring people out and get people to your event. It takes a lot of work. It's always taken work. It's always hard to sell tickets. It's always hard to get people to things. But I think we're really seeing that magnified.
Yeah.
Um, so with all that in mind, and the difficulty that we are now seeing with filling shows and things like that, because even sometimes like I'll go to even like some of Scott's stuff at like Streetlight, and it's like, because so there's a Streetlight Guild, which has a performance stage. It's kind of a unique setup because it's almost like L shaped, and then the
Yeah.
stage is in the middle, like right where the two lines of the L meet.
Mm.
Um, and if he hosts an event, he's not even guaranteed to fill up that whole L. Like he'll get like the first wing, and a
Mm.
lot of times, sometimes he'll get the second wing filled. But like a lot of the events that I've attended within the last year have really kind of been just the first segment. You know, that's why for the events I've attended.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I also think also might be like a volume thing. So it's like, if you run, kind of a good example of this is like the Rhapsody and Refrain, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like the way that he has it set up now is like 15 days straight, right? So
Right.
it's like it's 15 days straight, two poets each day. But if you have a setup like that, you can't really expect that
Right.
the whole space is going to get filled up every single time. But there's some of those days for sure that it's like packed out.
Yes, for sure.
And so, I mean, I think it's a different problem than I think if you have a once a week show that you're like trying to
Right.
build, like, and if you can't like fill something like that, because I remember back in the writer in the glory the glory days, like writer's block would be like, we're standing up in the back and we're still kind of packed in.
Yeah.
But yeah, which is just to say that, like, yeah, I think it's just kind of, maybe it's a different paradigm, but I see what you mean. Like, as far as like, it's sometimes like you'll go into an event and it's like it's not like super populated, but
Yeah.
I also think it's just a product of, you know, he does so many like events there that it's like,
Mhm.
even if you wanted to go to all of them, you probably
Right.
are gonna miss some.
Right. But I think all this goes also to say that it's not even necessarily a problem if you're holding an event and the room is you know half empty. Now I would say that
Mm.
set up your event for the people that are coming. Like you don't put out 100 chairs if you're expecting 10 people. There's a presentation
Yeah.
aspect to this too, but this goes back to our central argument where I think that moving forward for poets is that if we confine ourselves to the local scene and the local situation, by definition, there's going to be a limit in what we're able to do. But as soon as we're able to start to take the work to where the people are and where the people are online,
Yeah.
the people are online.
And you also said something that I think is like important, and I was thinking about this a lot because I was thinking about it when it happened, and me and Ajane had some conversations about it too. Like, I think that right now things are happening with we don't have to get too deep into it, but just like things are happening with like late night show hosts, right? And like how
Yeah.
like they were like suspended and things like that from their show for like saying things, and I think that the conversation was around like freedom of speech, which I think, and I'm gonna throw this out there. I think that making that whole situation about freedom of speech, I think feels safer than the thing that it actually is. Because I think the thing that it actually is the station always had the power and ability and really the admonition to say, "Hey, I'm going to this is not yours. This is ours.
Yeah.
This is our platform. This is our night show. You're hosting it, but it's on our network on these radio waves. And at any time, if you say something or something happens on this program that goes in a different direction or in a direction that we feel like is going to negatively impact us as an organization, we can pull you off." And you can be done. So like, which is just to say like this was not the thing that you thought it was. This was not this venue of, you know, this show host gets to say whatever he feels, whatever he thinks,
Right.
like he has this kind of freedom. It was never that. I don't know. I can't remember how long he's been doing it, but like it was never this
Yeah.
free space to say whatever you want, whatever your thoughts and feelings are politically, anything. It was always a hey, but if you mess up, we can pull you off.
Yeah.
Which is just to say that I think that like again, when it comes to when we're talking about like something like YouTube, which I think that there's some issues there, but it is by its nature far less restrictive, right? You know, you're supposed to be, you know, I'm responsible for what there are restrictions for what you can post on YouTube, but you know, generally speaking, what the host said on the program would not be something that you would be taken off of
Right.
YouTube for. And if your audience, if the people that follow you and what have you, you know, if they're in alignment with it, or at the very least, like they're still paying attention to it and they're kind of organized around it, then there's not really a negative effect that comes from it. Whereas I think that again, something that happened, which is again because it's on network TV, it's on a like broadcasting station. There's other people that determine the ramifications for your words. So yeah, I was just thinking about that when you said that a little bit earlier when it comes to
Yeah.
like things that are happening like here lately and also kind of having your own platform because I think it is something that it should show you that hey, like this thing that's happening, like it's comfortable to think that like the thing that happened is this huge infringement in this really big step that we've never seen before. Like that's actually a comforting thought, or I think it's a thought that's like meant to comfort you because it makes you feel like but like if we fight against it, then we can solve that. But I'm like, no, the situation
Yeah.
is not what you think the situation is.
Yeah. You're gonna run back into the same problem eventually. Like you're in alignment until you're out of alignment,
Yeah,
and then you're not gonna get a second chance. I mean, it's the same thing with like jobs and things like that. Like this is why we think jobs are safe. Your 9 to 5 is safe, but then
yeah,
suddenly the economy turns. Suddenly, a new administration comes in. So suddenly, uh, you make one slip up at work, and all the favorable views that people had of you, or your boss had of you, or your hiring manager had of you changes, and then
yeah,
if a company wants you out, they want you. They want you out. I've been there. Like I can speak. Like when I was at a language center down in San Antonio, and then I transferred to the center that they had in Columbus. And when that happened, there was a director there already, and she was going out on FMLA. Um, but there was also a culture at the center that the admins at the time didn't really like. And I didn't know any of this. Like I'm just like being thrown in as a transfer. So like I'm told that, oh, you'll be a director like temporarily. And I was like, all right. So just like for like 3 months till she comes off of FMLA, and then 3 months becomes the longest 3 months ever because it was like 3 years later that I decided to transition back into teaching because essentially they got rid of her, and they'll do it in a way that protects the business because like the
yeah,
typical like if a company wants you out, what they're gonna do is they're gonna make an action plan for you, and probably they're gonna give you an oral warning,
Yeah.
They're going to give you an action plan that's going to be impossible to hit. You're going to fail the action plan, and then they're going to get rid of you that way.
Yep. And it's really a paradigm of like not only it's like it's impossible to hit, but it's also impossible to hit because of the situation and the circumstances that the job presents itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not just impossible to hit, like it's impossible for you to hit. It's impossible for anybody that is put in that position to hit.
Yeah.
I even think back to like when I was termed from my, I guess it wasn't technically my first job, it was like my first job that I had for a long time. But like in that situation, it was like, you know, it was, and the job is out of business, so I lasted longer than you. but, but it was funny because like as a it was it was like a sales job, but it was like they were selling like mailing labels, like peel and stick mailing labels, which is like it was an outdated product when I started working there, let alone like now.
Right.
And so it was just funny how like we were there's somebody that was walking by waving. So if you seeing us on recording waving at you, we're waving at you too, but we're waving at. But yeah, so yeah, essentially it was like there weren't a whole bunch of sales, and like the retention for like customers was super low, and like they would do a thing where they were like, okay, well they had a collections quote unquote process, but okay, hilarious story about this is that on a technical basis, nobody had to ever pay this company anything because they actually we said that we were sending accounts to collections or whatever like that, but when we were saying that, what we really were saying is that we're just going to write it off, and it you'll never hear it. It won't ever matter. So people would owe the, and it's also because our contracts were kind of like they were not like real. They were like verbal contracts, but it was like
Oh wow.
they weren't like good verbal contracts, if that makes sense.
So
Like
they
the
couldn't even
sales,
follow through if they wanted to.
yeah, huh?
They couldn't even follow through if they wanted to.
There's no way because like what would we do? We would say like, hey, here's this salesperson talking like a mile a minute, like and then they're using a whole bunch of some language, and like it doesn't meet the
Yeah,
qualifications.
you lose that lawsuit.
Yeah, you'll lose it every single time. Every like the company never sued anybody because everybody knew we would lose every single one. Um, so which is all just to say that like there was like this thing around like collections when they were like okay, like here's this like action plan for us to kind of get you back on track. One of the things that we'll do is in order to in order to like make sure we're meeting it, that you have to collect this much in a week or this much this week, this much this week. And it's like we have zero things that like there's zero, like if we can call you can call 10,000 people in a week, and I think there's like probably something around that in a week, and nobody picks up. Well, maybe it's 10,000 might be a little large, but you can call a lot of people in a week and like nobody picks up. That's still like, oh man, what were we doing wrong? I'm like, they don't pick up the phone. I don't know, but yeah, it's all just to say that like like they'll do things that will push you out of the company, and so that way they can kind of have this air of moral correctness and more specifically legal correctness, so that they can they're trying to prevent themselves from like getting lawsuits, which is also just to say that like like we have this thought that like we are safe in this space, and that we're cool and everything is good, but I'm like there's really no safety in that paradigm. It's like it's safe as long as somebody is allowing it to be, and if it's only safe as long as somebody is allowing it to be safe, then it's actually not safe.
I mean, we see this over and over again. Like the language center I was at when I was at Columbus. Later on, the language center closed because I mean, we're dealing with international students, so like when you're in the English as second language industry, you're affected by everything globally much faster than other people are in other industries are, because if the dollar goes strong, well, you just lost all your Asian markets. If gas prices drop, we just lost all your Middle Eastern markets and some of your South American markets. So it's like it's very
Mm.
susceptible to global trends. So you can kind of see what the state of kind of like the world is when you're dealing with international students, which is cool. But at the same time, it's like, well, when all those things happened, like twenty
Yeah.
eighteen, 2019, and this was even pre, like end of the world situation.
This
Uh,
is before the world
right?
ended. It's supposed to be the rapture today.
Oh,
Did you
happy
know about
Rapture
that?
Day!
Happy Rapture Day,
Oh, you look
man.
good.
Ah, no,
Yeah,
well, you're still here,
it's like
so
yeah, well,
I don't know
can't
if
have
there's.
everything, but yeah. Um, we felt that. So the language center closed. So a lot of times it's not even necessarily factor. It's factors that are beyond your control. We don't control what the dollar does. We don't control like gas prices. We don't control things like that. So,
Yeah,
but if you lose students, you lose students, and the language center closes, and like they can find positions for admins. It was like, okay, we'll move this director if they're willing to move. You can go to like Cleveland or Cincinnati or something. But if you're a teacher, good luck finding a position, or you're gonna have to move far. We're not paid
yeah,
enough, and teachers aren't paid enough to completely uproot their lives and things like that. So, even if you're in a good position with your work and things like that, it's just not a guarantee. I'm thinking again of the restaurant, like the restaurant's closing. That I mentioned, like the Ram Shop, Ampersand, uh, sold out. They had a line out the door when they first opened for weeks. It was a hard spot to eat at, and then over time, now it's like, yeah, I mean they didn't get enough business. Bossy girls not getting enough business. It doesn't matter how things were yesterday. Like everything's so volatile, and we're seeing a lot of brick and mortar struggle. And so this goes back to the idea of owning our own platform. And YouTube, to be clear, owning YouTube is not owning your own platform to the same degree as having your own website and things like that. But what YouTube does give you is it gives you access to people while also being a step above working for someone else and
yeah,
being susceptible to their control. Ideally, yeah, you are building up your own email list. You are building up your own platform and maybe putting your videos there too. Um, which also I think speaks to the beauty of YouTube, which is that I can literally upload 100 gigs of video today if I really wanted to for free, which is
yeah,
wild because if you have a website and you want to put up 100 gigs of video, well, cool. But now you're gonna have to upgrade your data plan and
yeah,
that's probably gonna be what an extra 50, 100, $200, or it's not more. Video is expensive, and the fact that you can upload as much as you do to YouTube for free is so wild.
yeah.
It's
It's.
so
I mean,
wild. It's free.
well, it's.
It's
I mean,
so
it's
wild.
also it's like I think about kind of like the differences between like you working for somebody and you owning a platform or having like a platform that you can bring to like an established situation that's not just yourself, like me as a if somebody wants to book me as a poet, that's that's great. But if they want to book me as a poet and production, like me as like if they want to book me as a poet that does video of his own poems and has this platform and has like all these like kind of like monthly viewers and all this other stuff, it's like these are two different things that mean different things, like different things to like whatever organization or whatever that might book me if like in the event that that thing happens. And so I mean there is something to be said for like having an already established entity or having an already established platform that you can utilize as a kind of a selling point, as opposed to it just being like, oh, it's just me coming to you, like hopefully that hopefully we can do business that way.
So thinking back to YouTube. So again, my,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
own background on YouTube. I've started my teaching channels in my first teaching channel 2017, 2018. Um, that channel currently, just like in all transparency right now, so that channel has like 17,800 subscribers and generates about that channel's about $90 a month in income. Um, and is the primary, and this is the most important thing. It's the primary way new students find me. I don't do ads. I do zero ads. I'm 100% organic. All the new students who find me are finding me through YouTube. And that's the big thing. Because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, but the ad revenue." Like, don't do YouTube for ad revenue. Ad revenue is the least important part of doing YouTube.
Yeah.
It's basically I want to talk about 5 things that I think make YouTube particularly valuable, and this is the first thing. It makes you findable.
Mm-hmm.
Because between that channel, I started a second channel that's focused on like shadowing exercises. That channel is about at 19,000 subscribers, generates about $22 a month, and it again is just another way I'm findable. Because this is the other thing too. If you have multiple channels, like let's imagine that, again, speaking of findability, if someone is subscribed and regularly watches my my main channel, my shadowing exercise channel, and then I'm starting a new channel that's linking poetry and
Language,
pronunciation together. Yeah.
pronunciation. Yeah, I saw that.
Um, so imagine you're subscribed to all 3 of those, and you watch videos from all of them regularly. What happens when you go to youtube.com, the homepage? Who shows up?
All your videos.
All of them. Because if you just have one channel, YouTube's not going to cover the homepage with just one channel. Like if you follow Mr. Beast and you sign on to YouTube, not all the videos you see on the homepage are Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
But with 3 separate channels, I get more real estate on your homepage
Yeah.
because there's 3 separate channels, you know?
Yeah.
So like the more people that are interacting with stuff, so there can be some strategy to this because
Mm-hmm.
I can if I take up if I just have my own channel and you sign up on your homepage, maybe I get 2 videos on your homepage if you watch it regularly. But with 3 channels and that you watch regularly, hey, maybe now I'll be able to be 4 videos on your homepage, 5 videos on your homepage, which may not sound like a lot, but those I would much prefer those odds of getting selected over just having 1 or 2 slots. You know,
Yeah. I mean, and you think about it like a like on the if you're watching the Super Bowl and as you're watching the Super Bowl, like you see like in the corner of the screen, like a little thing for like Nike comes up.
yeah,
Like you as a viewer maybe not like thinking like a ton about like a Nike symbol kind of popping up on your screen or maybe even like just the announcer like brought to you by Nike, just do it,
yeah,
something like that. You're not overly obsessing about it, but like that's millions of
yeah,
dollars. Like they're paying millions of dollars just to be viewable
yeah,
at that time. It doesn't. You don't even have. They're not even saying like, man, you got to rush to the Nike
yeah.
website. That you don't gotta like watch a commercial right now. They're saying just the symbol and just do it. That's viewable,
Just be top of
and
mind. Yeah,
it digs in right here now. Like when I'm thinking of shoes, I'm not even just thinking of a general shoe anymore. Whenever I think of shoes, I'm thinking of Nike.
yeah,
And so yeah, just like this thought or this opportunity to be like, well, hey, I'm not just occupying, this much space on your screen. I'm occupying like a couple different this much spaces on your
yeah.
screen. And because it'll go into like different like lifestyle channels, like how to all that other stuff. Like there's all kinds of things that like you're especially if you have like multiple different channels that your content can pop up into.
Exactly. Yeah,
And now somebody would, regardless of your interests, you might have you have multiple different interests that kind of occupy your time and space, and like you're like, oh yeah, well, Jeff does this with with language and pronunciation, but Jeff also does this when it comes to like poetry and this and this and this. So it's like, yeah,
yeah. And I think also, even like homepage aside, like just between my 2 main teaching channels, in terms of impressions, like how many times are my thumbnails shown to people? And it can be the same people too, but my thumbnails are being shown to people every month between usually between 6 to 800,000 times. And it's not actually even a month. It's actually like 28 days because they have different ways you can track time. So
yeah,
like imagine that your face showed up 600 to 800,000 times in the last month. I made a graphic comparing, like imagine for your art. I made a graphic comparing the circulation for Poetry Magazine. So Poetry Magazine has a circulation of about 20 to 30,000, depending on where you get your source from. Um, cool. Congratulations, Poetry Mag. Um, last month, just in terms of views, I'm getting like 3, 4, 5 times that
Yeah.
number per month. You know, and like Poetry Mag, they release an issue. Who's reading the entire issue? You know, like the amount of people, like it
Yeah.
just dwindles. Like, yeah, I mean, some people are reading a lot of the poems, some people are reading half, some people are reading one or two, and some people aren't even reading at all. It's just ending up in like empty, mailboxes, things like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so it's just like when you have your own platform, you're so much more findable. So it's like
Yeah.
even if I get published in a poetry magazine, and I get it, I think it's more about the status of being in the magazine than it is about being findable when you're doing that publishing, you
Yeah.
know. But you're leaving a lot on the table because if I get a poem published in poetry magazine, that doesn't mean that a lot of people find me in poetry magazine.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think it's also something to do with, like, it's a it's a human to human, like, interaction. Like, they're seeing you
Yeah,
as, like, your brand. Like, your brand is a lot of things, but, like, you're the face of it. And I think about, like, if I'm thinking about Poetry Mag, I'm thinking about Button. I don't even think about one person. I don't think about a person at
yeah,
all. You know what I mean? Like it. I can't really. I wouldn't. I know people that work there,
yeah,
but and maybe that's like the goal. Like, it maybe for them, like, it's a goal, but it's also like, when we're talking about being findable, it's like Diverses is findable, but like Jeff Anderson of Diverses is findable.
yeah,
Like, if I could be going through YouTube and I come across a thumbnail, and I might not have read anything on the thumbnail or anything like that, but I already start making associations because I see you
yeah,
on the thumbnail.
yeah. So, and I think this leads to the another reason why I think now is a great time to be really considering YouTube and creating your own platform, and that is the credentials and the social proof. So that's the big reason why every time I do a workshop here, I'll be honest, I don't really care how many people come. Really don't care.
I don't care about
I really don't care. Really don't care because I care about what I can do with it because
you. Yeah.
I can now show people the workshop that I ran. I
Yeah.
can show more people than could physically come into this space. You know, like and it's also helpful for me too. Like for instance, this weekend I'm leading a workshop. There's a poetry festival in town, and the guy running it, Larry, asked me to lead a workshop. So I'm leading a
That's this
workshop.
coming up weekend, right?
Yes.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Or yeah, it's this weekend. Yeah.
Shout out
That
to Larry.
that clapping
Is
just
this?
dies. It just stops.
It
It's like
really
yeah.
does.
It just stops.
That's enough.
Yeah, so shout out to Larry and the Poetry Festival and all the work he's putting into that. But it's like I've taught other workshops before, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna watch one of my old workshops and remember what I taught, and then do it again. So it's good, but it's good. I have the reference.
I'm gonna teach me how to teach this.
So it's gonna, and like you make notes, you tweak it and things like
Yeah.
that, But it's like I don't have to start from scratch because I
Yeah.
literally already have the social. It's already there. Like I just watch it. Like all the notes it's all there.
I'm not even gonna teach this workshop. I'm just gonna push play on this video.
Do you see what I did there?
You see
You see what I
that?
did?
You like that, right? No, this guy gets it.
Do like me, but like me from like 6 months ago. Like do that.
It's still relevant. It's still
So it's helpful for me, but it gets to the concept of social. You literally are showing people what you've done.
Yeah.
Literally showing people what you've done.
Yeah, and I also feel like, when it comes to social proof, and like showing like kind of people like what you've done, I also think it's like reaffirming like on a brand, and I would even say like confidence level of like for yourself. You know what I mean? Like having, like, I think kind of getting the reps and things like that kind of allows you to be able to, and maybe this is going to be one of your other points, but it kind of allows you to kind of understand, like, hey, I know what I'm doing, and like kind of what you just said, like you can look at yourself 6 months ago and be like, I knew what I was doing.
I already did it.
Then
I already did it. That does speak to a couple of the things I want to touch on, but I
Yeah.
want to make just a real quick connection. The first thing being that by doing the YouTube in the online, you can also connect it to your local. So
Yeah.
by your local events, the things that are one time, that are in person experiences, suddenly can be enjoyed in the future indefinitely by more people than could have been physically present in the space. And then that really can't be undervalued.
I okay, and one of the I don't know why this word was slipping my mind earlier, but archival. I think that operating a YouTube page or channel, and really social media in general as well, like it can be a good space for archival. But I think like archival and art, like it kind of ingrains in a practice of archival where you're like, if I am doing something, so like it, I was even thinking about it like yesterday. Ajane had like this presentation at her job at Otterbein around her book, and like the first thing that I thought of like when we had talked when it happened when we had heard about it when they were organizing it before was, oh, we have to archive this experience because yeah, it might not be something that you typically would be like, oh, let me record it, let me put it down, and things like that. But it's just like you don't really know what you are going to need later on, or what could help. Because again, the quote unquote like kind of like that social proof that can happen because of the fact that you have it archived and you have this like proof that substantiates like, yeah, I can tell you on my CV that I wrote a book and then I had this event, this event, this event, this event. But I think what is even better is if I can show you that I can present in this fashion, and not only can I do it, but I can do it around work that I created, and in a capacity that invites me there because of that capacity, or because of that work. So yeah,
I mean, literally for my teaching business, like this, I can show links. Like if people are like, I'm thinking about taking a class with them, but I don't know, I can literally show you a link of what my class is like. There's no
yeah,
guesswork. You see exactly what my class is like. You can self-select. Be like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. No, it's not what I'm looking for. You can do all that without even meeting me. You know,
yeah.
like do it on your time. It saves my time, saves your time. Is great for everybody. You know.
Just imagine like, oh, like somebody wants to like, I don't know if we should go on a first date. This is me on a first date. 3 weeks
but
ago.
it really is like that. Yeah.
You see that? That's how I order at the restaurant.
That's what you should be on your Tinder profile. Tinder profile is just it's just like personal blogging.
I get it 2 for $20 at Applebee's every time.
just blur out the other person's face and just like
imagine yourself there. Is this an experience that you would like? Great. Never talk to me.
That's
again.
what you do. Like make a video of yourself going on an imaginary first date just to show people what it's like. Selfie style.
Unfortunately, that's going to be a film. Unfortunately, I have no choice but to make that.
It could be called Unhinged. That's the
Do you see? Do you see what I did there? You got to like run the plays like John Madden. You see, first I ordered a Cabernet. I'm typically a Merlot guy.
Are the final two things I want to mention, and one of them we've already indirectly hinted at, and one of them you also mentioned. The first thing is also it just gives you a platform.
Yeah.
And platforms are huge. You're no longer relying on anything else. You dictate the terms. I made a graphic about this before. You're like, I am not with the verses. I can't be afraid of being fired. Someone who would fire me is me. I can say, within reason, like I can say things that are mad controversial, and I could still wake up and have a job tomorrow. Now, to be clear, clients can be turned away by what you say, right? So it's maybe like that people choose not to work with you, but that's different than being fired.
The whole
Steve
Irwin band.
If you're still here after last week's episode.
If you're still here after last week's episode, well, point proven.
Thanks for hiring me again. But I dictate the terms. I can't be fired. You could be canceled. You could be removed, but you can't be fired.
Yeah.
Which is different. And then the last thing is arguably the most important. Like I think any way you approach social media, like ironically, I think the more you approach social media as concern about like it being overly focused on others as opposed to viewing it as a tool for personal development, I think is a missed opportunity. I am so much better at so many things because of pursuing YouTube and social media things. I'm a better teacher because I've taught using YouTube, and I've studied myself in front of camera like for tens of thousands of hours. I'm better at talking about a topic. You give me a topic, I can talk about it. For relatively minimal prep. I'm a more confident speaker. I'm much more aware of how people perceive aspects of presentation. I've learned video editing, audio editing,
Production design.
production,
Yeah, it's like
composition,
yeah,
lighting. I know this is like mad overexposed, but believe me, I know a little bit about.
yeah.
It's really sunny out. Okay, there's this huge
Post
window.
apocalyptic diverses.
The rapture happened. Okay. um, there's just so many skills that if I hadn't started this journey, I'd be a lesser person.
Yeah. I think when it comes to like anything that you do very consistently, you have to look into it and see like what other benefits that you get outside of like kind of just the direct action. And I think about that even too, like, I used to work in insurance, and I think that one of the things about having a 9 to 5 that was really depressing until I really started thinking about it differently was like I always thought about it like once I left my 9 to 5, I am zero parts whatever person that was during that 9 to 5, and
Wow,
and which is
that's really
which
sad.
it is, but it is because it's like
Yeah,
I
that's
think it's
really
like
sad.
I like there are things that I only know now because of that job,
Yeah,
or I only know about myself now because of that job, or that I'm not even like maybe it's not like something brand new, but it is something that I improved in my skill of because of that job or because of any job. And I think that the purpose of any of that should be how do I use that for myself and how do I use that to build up whatever I want to build up. But yeah, ultimately, it's like yeah, like being able to really break something down, like break something like YouTube down and be like, okay, doing YouTube for, years now is not just you being a YouTuber. It is you being a production design. It is you being a filmmaker. It's you like figuring out like, okay, what do you want to talk about presentation wise? Like these are all like really good skills that a lot of people take tons of classes. They spend thousands on classes for, or they'll go to a whole bunch of seminars to try to accumulate these skills and pick them up and strengthen them. And then like just because out of rhythm, out of the rhythm of like practicing it, every single day, it's like these are things that you're good at, and it's also something that you can translate to like lessons, which is again, yet now you're right back into
yeah,
the like, oh, let me show you how I do this, how I like even like the conversations that we're having now. Like the only reason why we can have a conversation about how to or the importance or the quality
right.
that you can get from YouTube is like because of how
By
long you
doing
did
it.
it.
Yeah. And I think that the last thing I'll say, just an additional point, is
Yeah.
I'm able to show up 100% myself because I remember when I was a teacher, like purely teaching at like language centers, my students didn't know I was interested in poetry. They didn't know about my language learning background. They didn't know about a lot of aspects of. They knew me as a teacher, but now I'm able to show up. Like I'm in a space and I'm consciously, and that's part of the reason for starting the new YouTube channel is like I want to show up in every space consistently. The way I am in this room is the same I'm in this room, the same I'm in this room. Like it's fun. I had a student, one of my students is from China. She works with like college admissions, like trying to help Chinese students that are interested in going to college in the U.S. And she was in town because there was a college admissions conference in Columbus randomly.
Yeah.
So she was in town last week, and one of the things we were talking about was like Jeff, like you're the same Jeff, like when you're teaching as you are now when we're having this conversation because like everyone's like get
Is
some
it that
coffee.
bad?
It's like
You're the same guy. What's going on?
but a lot of people don't have that consistency.
They can't.
Like if they're doing
Yeah.
like you doing sales calls, like good morning, or can I just see what like that's a whole different it's a whole different person. But it's like imagine
First
you're
of all, it
able.
was way. I think being a salesman made me a much. Also, here's what's interesting. I think so. I grew up in a faith that was salespeople. You know what I mean?
We'll let
Honestly,
you
we'll
figure
let
out
you.
what the faith is.
Like we were door to door salesmen. So when I went into a sales job, I was like, oh, like a lot of the things
It's like
that are
church.
it, honestly, a lot of it was like, oh, like the things that are hard for other people were really kind of intuitive for me. I'm like, oh yeah, like somebody saying no in a space where you're like proselytizing is like that's like of course they're gonna say no. They're supposed to say no. That's where the real that's where the struggle because that's where we really start going. Which is like it was just so funny because I'm like it was just easy. It was just kind of came easy in sales and it didn't like phase me and it really messed with a lot of people. Like a lot of like it was a super like I think it was like a 95% turnover rate like at that job. It was, and I'm not. That's like that might be underselling it by how many people they that didn't even make it out of training because they're like, I don't understand. If somebody says they don't want it, you're still like trying to talk to them, like you're still trying to talk. Like, no, I don't understand. Like, and it messes a lot of people up. So all just to say that like it's also a skill that as an artist, like when or actually not even just as an artist, but I think as somebody that is like talking about my film or like talking like if I was talking to hopefully somebody that was like interested in like funding a project and like as we're like talking about like the like I'm like talking about my project and I'm like they would have I would say concerns about like what direction the project was going and things like that. And I think that for a lot of people they would take them as like deterrents and being like, oh, this is like negative. I'm like, that's good. Like them not yelling at you, get off of my phone, you're out of here. Them just saying, no, I don't think I think that like that's not really something I'm interested in. I'm like, oh, like we're good. So that
That's a
means
great phrase.
we're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
If they are identifying something that they're not interested in, then I'm like, something else has them then.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And like, which is like, these are things that we can kind of play in, which is, again, I think that's kind of all, maybe not necessarily on topic, but it's just to say that like so many things in my life are like helped me develop tools that like only in the space that I'm in now I can fully utilize all the time without it feeling like a drag, without it being like, oh my, because it's like because I'm not you. I was developing these tools, but it was for something else. I'm developing this tool, but it's for customer service, it's for insurance, it's for sales, it's for collections,
But
it's
now you
for all
can
these
use
other
all of
things.
it.
But like now, I'm using all of these tools that I have, but I'm using them in my capacity as an artist and pusher of my work.
We should probably do a video just talking about sales calls, like especially the objections,
Yeah,
because the objection language is it's so interesting. The psychology, because it's like people are constantly telling you what they want if you just pay attention to it. Like, sorry, I
I
don't have the time. Okay, cool. Let's talk about when you do have the time.
yeah,
Like they're giving you all the cues like that you need.
heck
Um,
yeah,
but anyways, yeah, I hope that this video at least gets you thinking about, if not YouTube, the platform that works for you to approach it and to start building your online presence and building your online platform, because this is a challenging time right now for people pursuing more to in person,
yeah.
and I don't see relief in that vein anytime soon, but I do see a lot of opportunity if you're willing to rethink your approach to your art and how it reaches people.
100%.
Thank you guys. We'll be back next week with another edition of Arts and Offers. Once again, my name's Jeff.
I'm Matthias.
We'll see you guys later. Hope you have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon. Bye.